Um, we're getting real close to the end of the Miyazaki movies, of the Studio Ghibli movies. This one, after this one, I think there's only two more. So today I will be discussing 2014's When Marnie Was There, which is it was directed by uh, Hiromasa Yonebayashi. Again, apologize for mispronouncing that. And it was released in 2014. It is the second movie that was directed by this director. The first one was The Secret World of Arrietty in 2010. The story for the movie, for When Marnie Was There, is actually based off of a English novel of the same name by Joan G. Robinson that was published in 1967. And I'd never heard of the book before, as far as I'm aware. But then again, there's a lot of books I've never heard of that end up getting made into movies. Even nowadays, it's just like, oh, that's based off of a book. Yeah, I've never heard of the book. Okay. So the movie is, of course, kind of not exactly a coming of age story necessarily. It is about a girl kind of becoming to be more comfortable in her own skin, kind of finding out where she comes from. The main character, Anna, goes through and does learn a lot, and she learns a lot about herself and a lot about her past that she was unaware of. And, so we get to see a lot of that throughout the course of the movie. So I'll just get into it. So the movie kind of starts with the introduction of Anna, who is this very introverted 12-year-old girl living with her foster parents, her foster mother and father, who have raised her since she was about 5. Throughout the course of the movie, we will learn what happened to Anna's family, so we'll get to that. But she is very introverted, and she unfortunately has asthma, so sometimes she has anxiety attacks that, aggravate her asthma and such like that. Kind of we're introduced to her at school. We kind of learn very quickly that Anna is an artist, but she is also very shy about her artwork. And she sees this, she kind of sees the world in a way of, there is this magic circle, and there is an inside of the circle and an outside of the circle. And inside of the circle is where all of the popular, confident, pretty, normal people live. And then outside of the circle is where she lives. And she sees herself, and this is something that gets gone over later in the movie, as very plain, very ugly, very stupid. There is a lot of like self-loathing in Anna's character, unfortunately, for who she is. And throughout the course of the movie, it's her getting more and more comfortable with herself is what happens throughout the movie. And throughout the course of the beginning of the movie, she unfortunately has one of her asthma attacks on the playground at school, and she gets taken home, where we are introduced to her foster mother, Yuriko. And we, Anna's doctor is there looking over Anna, making sure that she's okay. And, he says, like, I think she's okay. She's just got a bit stressed or whatever, just, different, emotional attacks and emotional episodes can cause you to hyperventilate, which can result in a bad effect on your asthma. I grew up with asthma as a kid. I still kind of have it now, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. So I get a little bit of where that's coming from. Anna makes a comment to her foster mother, to Yuriko, who, as I said, has been raising Anna since she was about 5 years old. And we even see like pictures of Anna and her foster parents as Anna has grown up with them, and we see Anna looking very happy in the pictures and everything, and her foster parents being very happy. We find out that Anna's foster father travels a lot for his job, so that way there's all of that, but like her foster mother is there for her a lot, but her foster mother also worries a lot. Yuriko worries a lot. And Yuriko, or Anna makes the comment to Yuriko's like, I cost you money again for having to call the doctor. And Yuriko's like, that's not important. Your health is what is important. You are what's important. And Anna, because of her self-doubt and self-loathing, doesn't really believe this. And then we have Yuriko having a conversation with Anna's doctor. And the doctor makes the suggestion that maybe Anna needs to go to the countryside, because that was something that they would do a lot. I don't know if that's really necessarily a prescription that gets done nowadays, but in certain parts of the world, sometimes the prescription for like asthma, to give yourself time to recover, is to like go to the countryside where it's much cleaner air and such like that. So Anna's doctor recommends that Yuriko send her up to Yuriko has like some family up in the countryside. I think it's up in the Hokkaido region or so, up in a much more rural area of the country. And the doctor recommends sending Anna there. One of the other things that we get during this opening bit this opening scene is Yuriko talking with the doctor, and she's like, Anna just seems to have become so withdrawn, much more just like not as much reacting in as she used to. She doesn't smile the way she used to. She just she doesn't talk about friends at school or school at all. She barely interacts with Yuriko or her husband when her husband is home. She is just very isolated in the way that she acts, and Yuriko is very worried about that, because Anna was this very happy, smiling kid, and she's just very concerned as to what could have happened to make Anna just become so closed off. So we have some of that, and then it's decided that Anna is going to head up north and everything. Yuriko sends her off on one of the Bullet Express trains to send her up the coast and up north, where she is picked up at the station by the Oiwas, can't pronounce their name, sorry, who are Yuriko's, I think they're supposed to be cousins, possibly. And so she, Anna is picked up by them, and they're very nice people. And they take her to their house. She gets to kind of see the town as they're driving through, and it's this very small, coastal town. And she sees this, grain silo up on the hill that's like, oh yeah, it's according to her the Kiyomasa, who is kind of like her uncle, I guess, is like, yeah, the place is haunted, and the aunt's like, don't say that. They also both notice that Anna only refers to Yuriko as auntie. She doesn't refer to her as mother, but they don't really push her on that. So they bring her to the house. They show her around the house. They have children, but their children are all grown and out of the house. So they have Anna gets to stay in their daughter's room and such. So they get so she's getting to she gets introduced to them. They're very nice. She gets introduced to the house and everything. And Anna decides to go out and sketch. One of the other things is that her foster mother, that Yuriko had actually sent a bunch of postcards with Anna. I keep going Anna because of Anna from Frozen, but it's Anna. Admittedly, they are spelled the same but pronounced differently. And then there's Annie and Anne and Anya. So it's just like, okay, which pronunciation are we doing here? Sorry. But Yuriko had actually sent postcards with Anna, so that way Anna could write back to her and stuff like that. So tell her about how things are going and things she's experiencing and stuff like that. So Anna goes out to sketch, and she ends up looking across kind of like the marsh area, where she sees this very old house that at one point was probably definitely a very nice place to live for very rich people. And she ends up going across the marsh and climbing her way around and like looking around the house, like looking into the room, seeing that everything's very dilapidated and dusty and, you know, abandoned. And she's just, you know, it's just kind of an interesting house. And she ends up actually kind of like falling asleep there. And by the time she, you know, runs back down, it's high tide, so she can't really cross the marsh anymore. Thankfully, there is a boatman who is out there, who is this, you know, very taciturn old fisherman that shows up, Toichi, and he shows up at the right time and, you know, gets her into his boat, and he takes her back to the other side of the marsh and everything like that. Not really saying very much, and if anything, because he doesn't really talk that much. I think he says like one sentence or two sentences, if that, the entire movie. He's not very talkative. Anna learns his name later on by talking to her uncle when she explains what happened. And the uncle's like, yeah, that night at dinner, they're like, yeah, but again, Ghibli and just drawing delicious looking food. Again, just the tasty, delicious looking food that Ghibli is so good at drawing when it comes to that. Just like, God, is like, I don't even care for seafood, and I look at that and I'm like, I wouldn't mind trying it. It might be nice. I might like it, but I don't know. But, you know, so Anna tells her aunt and uncle about, you know, or asks about the house, and I'm like, oh yeah, that place used to be a vacation home for a wealthy family a long time ago, and at some, you know, over the years it's changed hands a lot, and at this point in time it's just become very run down. For like, it was a vacation home originally for a bunch of foreigners, and at this point in time it's just kind of run down after changing hands so many times. And, you know, they just advise her to like stay away from it because it's supposedly haunted, like the silo. From that night onward, Anna starts having dreams about this very mysterious blonde girl that lives in the mansion. And what ends up happening is, you know, she has, you know, one night she dreamed, you know, the first night she dreams that she ends up, you know, she dreams about going down to the marshes again, and she ends up, she starts having these dreams where she's like looking through the window and she sees this, you know, blonde girl who's having her hair brushed by like a, you know, like a nursemaid, but it looks a little more forceful in how she's brushing her hair. Like, it looks more painful than it should be. And so, you know, Anna starts having these dreams. After that, we kind of get introduced to, you know, Anna spends some time, you know, a little bits of time here and there with her aunt and uncle. And the uncle is actually a craftsman and a carpenter in the village, so he makes lots of different stuff. And he made a lot of these like lanterns that need to be taken for the Tanabata festival that's going to be happening, you know, the next day or the next 2 days. And Anna accompanies her aunt to go and speak to the woman who is, I guess, kind of like, I don't know, the head of, I guess, not the head of the society, but like, I guess like the head of like all of the different, like, you know, cultural things and stuff like that. Like the one lady in town who's like has her hands in so many pies, and like is, you know, her daughter is like the class president, and, you know, is kind of very bossy, and the mom can be a bit bossy as well, and everything like that. You know, so there's a lot of that. But you know, so Anna is taken to be introduced to her, and there's just some, you know, the woman sees that Anna has a sketchbook and wants to ask about it, but Anna's like, no, they're not very good, very shy, and then she ends up leaving to go off. But before that, she is offered to come to the festival, and Setsu, who is Anna's aunt, is like, oh, that would be great. You can borrow my daughter's yukata, so that way you can wear that and everything. And the lady, Mrs. Kadoya, I butchered names, I'm sorry, is like, oh, well, you can go with my daughter Nobuko, who is, the class president and everything, and is the same age as Anna. And so Anna doesn't necessarily want to go, but she does go. And, Anna ends up going down, that day she goes down to the, down by the beach area, and she starts drawing the house from across the beach, from across the marshes. And she also sees this other woman who is there, who is this older woman who is painting, in a similar area to where Anna is painting. So she kind of notices her. From there, we get to that night for the Tanabata festival. And by the way, there's so many festivals that happen in Japan. They look fun. I wouldn't mind experiencing some of them. They look very fun. I may have to ask my cousin about that at some point in time. Ask my cousin's wife about that at some point in time. What it's like going to those different festivals, because they look kind of fun. Because, they get depicted in anime. Like, they've been in Digimon at times. They've been in Sailor Moon. They've been in, so many other different animes and stuff like that, where they have, all these different, fun festivals where, you go to, go on New Year's and go for all these other different celebrations. And they just look like fun, in my opinion. I don't know if I'd want to wear a yukata, mostly just because they seem very tight. But, whatever. But, Anna goes to the festival with Nobuko and her friends. And what ends up happening is Nobuko is kind of trying to be nice, but because she is so used to being able to, be into other people's business, be into, knowing everything that's going on around her and everything like that, she kind of tries to talk to Anna, but then she keeps getting distracted by her own friends and not actually, letting Anna explain anything. So there's, that stuff's going on. And Anna does look very nice in the yukata. She looks very nice in it. I do like it. But, one of the things at, different festivals is you can get, you light candles for those who have passed, or for, whatever. And, Anna lights one of the candles, and then she gets, a tag that you're supposed to, write a wish on, and then tie it on to, one of the trees at, the shrine, so that way you're able to, get your wish for the next year or so. And Anna writes down her wish, and unfortunately what ends up happening is Nobuko comes over and just literally snatches it out of her hand, reads it, and it's like, I just want nothing but a normal life, is what it is that Anna wants. And Nobuko is kind of like, well, why would you want a normal life, or that type of a thing? And she's not even letting Anna explain herself. And this is from the position of someone who has been bullied. I have been bullied a lot of my life at school. And even to a degree, in, Sunday school and stuff like that at church, I have been bullied. I am well aware of what it is like to be bullied. Not necessarily always physically bullied, but more emotional bullying. And I know that Nobuko is not necessarily trying to be a bully, but unfortunately, given everything that Anna has experienced and such, and that Nobuko is not really being she's not having a lot of tact in the fact that she just ripped Anna's wish out of her hand without even asking if she could see it. And then she read it and then criticized it. And then she goes and she looks at Anna's eyes, because Anna has blue eyes, as opposed to a lot of other Japanese people don't necessarily naturally have blue eyes unless they have Western lineage, European lineage in them. And she's like, wow, your eyes are beautiful. They're so blue and everything. And Anna lashes out. She actually calls Nobuko a fat cow, or it's a fat pig, one of the two. She calls her, insults her. And then she because Anna is so used to, I harp on this scene because stuff that deals with bullying is stuff that gets to me, because I know what it feels like to be bullied for various reasons. And so it's like I understand to a degree where Anna is coming from, but I can also a little bit understand where like Nobuko is coming from. But Nobuko is kind of, she's so used to being able to be like the one that's in control of situations and being the one that is, knows so much of what's going on and having people listen to her and everything like that. She's not used to this thing of like, Anna doesn't respond well to that. And I mean, Nobuko, for her part, she says something too, but then she's just like, okay, why don't we just stop and why don't we just, break it off here and just try to just have like a clean start. Anna doesn't respond well to that, and she runs out of the festival, and then runs down to the beach where she ends up crying, and she's like, stupid, ugly, horrible, she's just like all the insults that she does to herself as she's like sitting there, all these like horrible things that she thinks about herself. Well, she's, kind of, there on the beach crying. And for those of us who have been bullied in our lives and stuff like that, those are, things that you feel a lot, that you feel that you're not the way that you're supposed to be. That's for normal society. Join the club. And that's one of the reasons why I harp on some of the bullying stuff that happens in Turning Red from Pixar, for that type of stuff. But what ends up happening is Anna ends up seeing this boat, this little, rowboat that's there, and she ends up climbing into the rowboat, and she sees across the lake, she sees the mansion, and she starts rowing across the lake to the mansion. And as she's doing that, she sees that the mansion lights turn on. And as she gets closer, she can't really control the boat very well, so it ends up almost like crashing into the dock. But there's this blonde girl that runs down, and it's the same blonde girl from like the dreams that Anna has been having, and the girl, uses the rope from the boat to, help, guide the boat so it doesn't actually crash and everything, and helps get Anna out of the boat. And this is Marnie. The blonde girl's name is Marnie. So she's the title character of the movie. And what happens is, as Anna and Marnie are kind of being introduced to each other, and while they're talking and such, to begin with, Marnie's like, well, yeah, I left the boat over there so that way you could, sail across the marsh and everything and come and see me and all of that. And then, like, they hear more noise and lights turning on from the inside, and they end up hiding behind this bush as as Marnie's, mother comes out, and we see like a maid and everything else in the background. And we hear them talking about like, so where is that girl at this time, and blah 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 blah. It's just like, oh, she's probably in her room or whatever. And so Marnie, and like Anna are hiding behind the bush, and then after her parents, after Marnie's mother leaves, she ends up talking to Marnie, and Anna end up talking a tiny bit more before Anna goes, or Marty helps row Anna back across the lake. And she's like, will you be my little secret? And, be my, my special little secret and everything like that, for, because she doesn't want Anna, Marnie doesn't want her parents to find out about Anna, and she definitely doesn't want the maids and the nanny to find out. You'll find out why later. And Marnie agrees to this, under the beautiful, moonlit sky. And, Anna wakes up, and she is, laying in the boat, and then she starts making her way back to, the house where she's staying with her aunt and uncle. And when she's arriving, she hears Nobuko's mother inside the house shouting at Setsu about, that Anna called Nobuko a fat cow or fat pig, whichever one it was, and, had pulled a knife on her, and is accusing Anna of being like a hooligan and a ne'er-do-well and whatever other, bad words you want to come up with in that regard for like an insult for that. before she like huffs and storms out after demanding to speak to Anna, but Anna's not back yet. She like huffs and storms out, and like Anna hides along the side of the porch so that way, you know, Nobuko's mother doesn't see her. And when her aunt and uncle see her, they assure her, you know, that she's like, A, Anna's upset because of what happened. B, she's upset because of, you know, the initial incident, plus now, you know, Nobuko's mother showing up and yelling at the people she's staying with and blaming them for this and blaming Anna for what happened. And then she's also kind of upset because like she kind of got the yukata dirty when she didn't want to. She didn't want to ruin the nice yukata that was, you know, her aunt and uncle were letting her borrow. And her aunt and uncle assure her that it's fine, it's okay, you know, well, you know, you'll make up eventually, or, you know, it's not a problem, it's, you know, not, you know, it's not your fault. And, you know, they take her back inside. And the next day, Anna's in a bit better mood and everything, and she ends up going across the across to the marsh house at one point, and, you know, is like looking and again can't find anything, and ends up coming back later where she ends up finding Marnie again. And Marnie that night has like rowed across in a boat again and gotten or that afternoon has rowed across in a boat and has like a little picnic of like juice and cookies, and they end up spending some time talking, and they do kind of like a, you know, question and answer back and forth where it's just like, you know, each night we get to ask each other 3 questions, and, you know, so that way we can, you know, learn about each other. So it's, you know, back and forth of, you know, well, you know, why are you here and how long are you here? And Anna's like, you know, well, I'm here because I have asthma and it makes it, you know, hard for me to breathe sometimes, and I'm, you know, I'm here to get better in the clean country air, and I'll be here for a little while, even if it means that I'm, you know, missing school. And Marnie's like, oh, well, does that mean that you're okay? And Anna's like, yeah, it's fine. It's just something that my mom is more, my auntie or my foster mother is more worried about it than, you know, is necessary. And she's like, you know, ask Marnie, you know, the same thing. And Marnie's like, well, my parents, the Marsh house is my parents' vacation home. But it's mostly just me and Nan and the maids, because my father travels a lot, or my father is away for work a lot, not home much, and my mother travels a lot. And so, you know, they go back and forth on asking the different questions and everything like that. And so, you know, getting to know you. And what ends up happening is that night, you know, after they're done with their little picnic, they sail back across in the boat. And they are, Marnie helps Anna with, you know, being able to row the boat and everything to help teach Anna how to row the boat, so that way they can get across the lake. And, you know, Marnie ends up actually like standing on part of the boat, on like the edge of the boat while Anna is rowing, and just like enjoying it. And they get to the house, and Marnie's like, I know, because like there's a big party going on because her parents are throwing a big party, and she's like, how about this? I know a way to get you into the party. And she, you know, goes inside and changes into her, you know, nice dress, and she ends up grabbing her, grabs her, her nanny's shawl and takes it outside and like puts it on Anna, so that way they can, you know, like pretend that she's a flower girl, and tries to sneak Anna into the house. Unfortunately, the nanny finds them and ends up actually like chasing them around the house a little bit before they trap Nan in one of the bedrooms by like throwing a blanket over her, and then happenstance getting the keys and then locking her in the room. And then going down to the party where they have Anna pretending to be this like little flower seller girl, and, you know, to, you know, Marty's, you know, introduced to the party and everything, and then they bring in Anna, and, you know, it's, you know, Marnie's parents are, you know, kind of playing along and everything, and everybody else plays along and buying flowers from Anna before her shyness gets to her, and she just like runs off. And at one point she ends up seeing Marnie dancing with a young boy whose name is Kazuhiko, and Anna gets a little bit jealous, and she ends up going outside, where she ends up kind of not falling asleep, but like just kind of like sitting at one of the outside picnic tables before Marnie comes back out and joins her. And Anna is a little bit upset because of, Marnie kind of abandoned her at the party after doing the whole flower seller thing and, going to dance with, Kazuhiko. And what ends up happening is Marnie and Anna end up dancing. And they're like kind of, waltzing around the yard and having a nice little time like that. And later, we cut away from them dancing, and it cuts to Anna has actually fallen asleep outside the post office, where she is found by two of the townsfolk who end up taking her back to the Oiwas, where her aunt and uncle take her inside and everything. And, she's missing one shoe, and the shoe is actually left outside of the mansion. And Marnie, goes back the next day and finds the shoe. And again, the mansion looks dilapidated again, even though last night it was like back to its former glory. And over the next week, Anna doesn't really have any other dreams about Marnie. She's just kind of, watching, she's, still drawing the house and has drawn like sketches of Marnie and stuff. And she ends up down by the shore again, where she ends up meeting the other artist, who is Hisako. And she's painting a picture of the mansion as well. And Hisako mentions that they should get their sketching and their painting done, because soon the mansion is going to be, is going to have people living it again. So it's being, refurbished and remodeled and everything like that, so restored. And Anna gets a bit worried about this, and she runs to she goes across the marsh to the mansion, where she ends up where the window to the room where Marnie would have been, shoots open, and it's actually another girl, whose name is Sayaka, and she yells down at Anna, thinking that Anna is Marnie, and she says, "Are you Marnie?" And they end up going and they end up meeting and talking, and Sayaka is under the impression that Anna is Marnie, and Anna is she's not necessarily going along with it, but she goes along with it to the point where she like goes inside the house and sees that they are remodeling it and fixing it up and everything, and they end up at they go to Sayaka's room and they're talking, and Sayaka gives her this diary that is Marnie's diary, and Anna's sitting there reading the diary, and it's I rode across the lake in my nightgown last night, to row under the moon, and there was a party with my parents threw a party, and I dressed danced with a flower girl in the back garden and everything. So it's just like this whole thing where it's like these are the adventures or the dreams that Anna has been having, and this is what's written in Marnie's diary, and she's very confused by it. And she ends up explaining to Sayaka that she is not Marnie. And Sayaka is like very disappointed in that. And she's like, but I thought you were. I found that diary and I just... and there's also like missing pages that have been torn out of the diary. And Sayaka and Anna are just kind of talking, and they're like, and Anna's like, so I guess Marnie was real. I thought she was just someone that I made up. And Sayaka's like, well, I don't know. I found that diary, and I see you down in, by the marsh a lot. And I just, I thought you were Marnie, and that maybe this was where you used to live or something. And they kind of, Sayaka is like, I'm going to try to find the rest of those missing pages from the diary. And what ends up happening from there is Marnie or Anna does have another dream about Marnie, where another dream or another interaction with Marnie, where they end up kind of roaming through the little forest woods area that's near the marshes, and like they gather mushrooms and they talk more, and just a nice little enjoyable adventure. And what ends up happening is we have these moments where kind of like they tell each other they're kind of not necessarily like dark foreboding secrets, but they kind of tell each other about like the hardship. And it's Anna reveals that she is so what ends up happening is Anna reveals that she is aware of the fact that she is a foster child, but she found out much more recently that her foster parents actually get money from the government to help take care of Anna. And Anna was worried about this because her foster parents hadn't told her this, and she's starting to think that like one of the only reasons that they keep her around is because they get paid for it. And this is a very common occurrence in a lot of countries. I know that they do it here in the US, and I guess in Japan, and probably in a lot of other countries, where if you're a family and you take in foster children, the government does pay you a subsidy of some kind to help take care of those children. And a lot of families are, unfortunately, a lot of foster parents who just do it to take in the kids to get the money from the government or whatever. And yeah, they take care of the kids, but they don't put, they're not as involved with the kids as like sometimes other foster parents are, or like just other, parents are in general when it comes to their kids. Because there are foster parents that do abuse the system, and then there are very good foster parents who very much take care of any of the children that are underneath their roof and that are part of, under their care and everything, and they very much love them and everything like that. That's been depicted all over various media for years and years and years, for good and bad foster parents all the way up and down the range, and good and bad adoptive parents and step parents and actual parents, and just One Piece does this too when it comes to a lot of stuff. So it's like, it's that type of thing. But Anna is very worried about the fact that like her aunt, that Yuriko does spend money on her, but she's worried about it because she thinks that if Yuriko has to spend too much money on her, Yuriko and her husband may not want Anna anymore. And so she's worried about that, even though earlier on in the movie, when Anna was spending time with Setsu, and they were like in the kitchen cooking and everything, Anna is like very good with a knife and with cooking and helping, and Setsu's like, yeah, that's one of the reasons why, that's kind of because when you first came to Yuriko, she was, she was a little, sad about the fact that she'd missed out on 5 years with you, because Anna didn't get to Yuriko until she was like 5 years old. And, so Yuriko spent a lot of time with Anna and probably helped her, learn in the kitchen. And, Setsu's like, Yuriko was so happy to have you around. And, she sent us so many pictures over the years of you growing up and everything. And we even see Anna like getting to look at the pictures that were sent to Setsu and such up, all the way out here, to see how happy that Yuriko was to have Anna around and have Anna as part of her family and as her daughter. And some of that kind of starts to like shift Anna's opinion, because it's like it's this internal conflict where it's like she's been shown evidence clearly that her foster mother and father love her, but she's also like, but it's like they get paid to help be able to take care of me, and if I do something where they don't want me around anymore, then maybe the only reason they'll keep me around is because they get money for it. So it's like, it's that whole back and forth thing in her head, and she's just very worried about that, and worried that if she does something wrong, something too wrong, then her foster parents will get rid of her and she'll have to go back into the system. And she even looks at Marnie and says, I wish I could have a life like yours. And Marnie is like, no, you don't. You don't want a life like mine. Mine is, it may look like a dream on the outside from people who come and visit our house, but it's not. When mom and dad are there, it's wonderful. We have wonderful parties, and I get a new dress, and I get to have so much fun. But then dad goes off to do work again and travel around the world for that job, and mom goes and travels for fun, and I'm stuck here where it's just Nan and me and the maids. And Nan locks me in my room and brushes my hair so hard that it hurts, and the maids will try to, you know, the maids' names, I kid you not, are Ursula and Ella DeVille. I kid you not. Those are the actual names of the maids in the movie. Um, yeah. And and so I'm just like, that's definitely references to the Disney villains, unless those are the actual names of the maids in the book, which I don't know if they are or not, but if they are, good on them for predicting that ahead of time. But what ends up happening is Marnie is explaining this, that it's just her and the maids and Nan in the house, and that Nan brushes her hair so hard and locks her in her, brushes her hair so hard that it hurts, and like pulls her arm a lot and locks her in her room, and that the maids threaten that if she's a bad child, that they'll drag her to the silo, where they'll throw her into the silo, and the ghost there will suck out her soul. And that's why Marnie has this, like, one of these terrifying, fears, debilitating fears of the silo. And there's even, like she mentions, there was one night where the maids dragged me all the way to the silo, and had there not been this huge thunderclap at just the right time, they would have thrown me into the silo, but they dragged me back to the mansion instead. And so it's just like that horrible idea, and it's just like, she's just so terrified of the silo, and she's like, but that's why I sneak out, because I sneak out while the staff gossips, so that way I can be free, and I can at least feel free for a little while. And so that, Marnie's like explaining that to Anna, and it's just like, Marnie's like, I wish I had what you had, where you have a foster mother who clearly does love you, but Anna is still thinking that they're just pretending to love her so they can get the money. So it's that whole conflict back and forth, that she's just, she doesn't feel, for Anna, from her perspective, from what I think that it is that she doesn't feel that she deserves to be loved because they're getting paid for it. And she thinks that that's the only reason they're like pretending to care about her, and that's why she's worried about costing them money, even though that's not really a concern for her foster parents. They clearly love her. They want her to be taken care of. They want her to be happy. Yuriko buys her art supplies and stuff like that, sketchbooks and pencils and all this other stuff that she can, use for her sketching and drawing, so that way she can encourage that in Anna. And so much of that. So I love how they show that in the movie, and that it's, these little things. And what ends up happening is, Anna and Marnie actually end up having this moment where Anna's like, okay, we're gonna go to the silo. I'm gonna take you to the silo because you need to face your fears. And she starts leading Marnie up to the silo. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is Sayaka rides by and has found them, is trying to yell up at, Anna that she's found the missing pages, but Anna just keeps going. Also, Marnie starts referring to Anna as Kazuhiko. And that, she keeps saying Kazuhiko instead of Anna when she's talking to her. And, Marnie has ended up in the silo, and Anna has made her way up to her as well, but it's like raining and storming and everything, so are dealing with that, and Anna gets to where Marnie is in the silo, and Marnie has like this like coat around her trying to keep her warm, and Anna is trying to calm down Marnie from having these panic attacks. And at the same time, Marnie keeps calling Anna Kazuhiko, and Anna's trying to get Marnie to come out of the silo now. We have to go back down. We got up here one way, we can get back down and escape and everything. and, get out of the silo and everything. There is stuff here that is scary, but there's no ghosts, and there's, thunder going off at the same time, and lightning, and all of this. So they're going through a lot of that. And what ends up happening is the two girls end up, like, cuddled up on the stairs underneath the coat. And Marnie dreams about Anna dreams about seeing Marnie alone in the silo, and Kazuhiko showing up and, draping a coat around Marnie and getting her out of there and getting her comforted and getting her back home. And, when Anna wakes up, she's still in the silo, and she's like, she starts panicking because Marnie's not there, and she climbs down out of the silo, and she's trying to run back home, and she's, like, going through her head of, like, where did you go, Marnie? Why did you abandon me? And she's having memories of when she was a little kid, when she first became, an orphan, and when she first had the end of the foster system, dreaming about being at this funeral where she's around all of these other people who can't seem to want to take her in for whatever various reasons. And eventually how she ends up, she keeps having these memories of this, like, older woman who used to take care of her and, singing and everything. And then she's, having, having memories of being terrified of thunderstorms and everything like that as she's, like, growing up. And she actually ends up collapsing, and it's still raining, and she ends up collapsing in, like, this puddle on her way trying to get home. Back with Sayaka, Sayaka has been reading the diary pages that had been missing, and she sees that Kazuhiko is mentioned so many times, and she reads that, oh, there was a time when Marnie went to the silo and Kazuhiko had to go and rescue her. So Sayaka grabs her older brother and makes him come with her to go and try to find Marnie, thinking that maybe Marnie went to the silo, where they find Marnie on the ground, all, soaking wet and burning up. And, Sayaka stays with her as her brother goes and gets, help and gets, the people that Anna is staying with. So Anna gets sick, and she ends up, having to stay in bed for for a little while. But in the dream, she dreams about running down to the Marsh house and making her way there, where Marnie is trapped inside and ends up having to, like, break the lock on the window to, like, open the window to yell down at Anna. And she's like, I'm sorry, Anna, I didn't mean to leave you, but it's just when you were there, it's like you just weren't there anymore. You were gone. And Marnie and Anna's like, well, why did you abandon me? Why did you leave me? And it's just like, you were just gone. And I didn't mean to, and I'm sorry, but I can't stay here very much longer. And she's, I can't stay here any longer. I have, I'm running out of time, or whatever the case might be. But it's just like, will you remain my secret, my special secret? And Anna's like, yes, I will. And, like, we see Marnie, like, the last image that kind of Anna has of Marnie at this point in time is, like, her smiling in the window as, like, this, storm is, like, coming through, but also, like, finishing up. So that, Anna wakes up and she's starting to feel better, and, Sayaka comes to visit her once Anna's feeling better, and she gets to read the diary pages, where she gets to read about Kazuhiko and everything, and read a little bit more about that. And then she ends up, Sayaka hands her this little painting that is a painting of the Marsh house, and on the back it's from Hisako. And Anna recognizes that immediately and gets dressed, and then they run down to the beach where Hisako is still painting. And they end up talking to Hisako and giving her the painting, and she's like, I remember this. And she's like, I remember Marnie. And she starts to tell them about Marnie, and she's like, Sayaka and Marnie had been friends when they were little, and that they had been, Hisaka tells them about when her and Marnie were little and how they'd been friends, and how, things had been good. And then, with Marnie's parents traveling so much, and, she was just left with the maids, and all they did was bully her, and, being mean to her and just cause her, pain and everything like that, even though nobody would admit it. She remembers how Marnie would love talking about her parents' huge parties and everything, but she was just being neglected in the process and everything. And how, over the years, really the only friend that she had was the other friend that she had was Kazuhiko. And that, eventually when Marnie was old enough, she left. And she ended up marrying Kazuhiko. And then they had a daughter named Emily, and for a short time they were very happy. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is Kazuhiko became sick and died. And Marnie is kind of committed to a sanatorium, and because she can't take care of Emily, Emily gets sent off to boarding school at a very young age. And, by the time Marnie is actually able to take care of Emily again after, going through the sanatorium and everything, she, Emily is not this smiling, happy little kid she used to be anymore. She's very independent, very willful, and very much doesn't want to be around her mother. And eventually when Emily is grown up enough, she leaves home and, blaming her mother for abandoning her, even though she knew that her mother was sick and, was grieving the loss of her father, and all of that. And, going through all of that, and didn't really have a support system because Marnie didn't really have anyone in her own family that she could turn to. And I don't know how much of Kazuhiko's family would have been around. So Hisako is like telling the girls the story, and she's like, and eventually when Emily ran away from home and got married and had a baby. And when there was unfortunately a car accident, and both Emily and her husband were killed, and the granddaughter was then orphaned. And instead of having her placed in an orphanage, Marnie took her in to raise her and tried to do her best to take care of the daughter, or the granddaughter. But unfortunately, Marnie became sick as well and eventually passed away when the granddaughter was about 2. And unfortunately, from there, she did end up getting placed into an orphanage. And Sayaka explains that that's as far as she's aware of the story, because that's, because of she had kept in contact with Marnie, but there wasn't a whole lot else that she could keep in contact with after that because Marnie died. And we cut to back where Sayaka and Anna are just crying and, thanking Hisaka for telling them what happened. And, Hisaka's like, Marnie led a very sad life, but she lived life to the fullest with a smile on her face to the best of her ability. And we cut to, a while later, a little bit later on in the summer or so, and it's time for Yoriko, for Anna's mother, to come and pick her up. And she comes down, and throughout this whole time, Anna has been sending postcards back to her foster mother and everything like that, so they're able to stay in contact. And Yoriko comes down to pick up Anna, and they end up having this moment where Anna is out on the lake with Sayaka and with Toichi in their boat, in Toichi's boat, and the two girls are just kind of talking, and they mention that they put Marnie's diary back where it's supposed to be, so that way it can be safe and everything. And the two of them are friends now, and they mention Marnie, and Toichi is like, yes, Marnie, the little girl trapped behind the blue window, and it's supposed to be he knew her growing up, or he knew who she was growing up. And, Anna's, Yoriko sees them talking and laughing and everything, and sees Anna being much more smiley and happy again and being back to her old self, and that makes Yoriko very happy. And they get back to, the house, and Yoriko does two things. A, she tells Anna about the fact that they do get money for taking care of her, but that's not why they love her. And Anna's like, yes, I know that's why you get money. And so they have this moment where they're actually able to reconnect, and where where Anna and Yoriko are able to kind of mend that little bit of that worried bond there from Anna's end, where she was worried that Yoriko and her foster father didn't really love her, that it was just for the money and everything. So they have that moment. And then Yoriko gives her this picture, and Anna looks at the picture, and it's this like old, folded several times picture of the Marsh house. And Yoriko's like, when we got you, when you came to live with us, you wouldn't let go of that. And like on the back, it's signed in Marnie's handwriting, like, my home, this is my home, and everything like that, Marnie. And Anna makes the connection in her head that the reason she knows these stories is because Marnie is her grandmother, that Emily is her mother. That when Anna was a toddler, she lived with Marnie, and Marnie had told her so many of these stories about Kazuhiko, and about riding across the lake in the moonlight, and about dancing at this party, and going to the silo, and all this other stuff, that she told Anna so many stories about her life that Anna remembered them. And she's kind of getting this, the reason she has these like visions-ish of Marnie is because she's back in the same area, and she's able to like piece this together finally, and she starts crying as she realizes this. And Yoriko is trying to comfort her, and she's like, it's kind of like good tears. And so it's time, it's now time for them to head back to their home in the bigger city. I don't think they live in Tokyo. I think they live Sapporo, I think is what it's said at the beginning of the movie is where they live. I could be wrong. But like, as they're leaving, they stop, and Marnie says, apologizes to Nobuko, apologizes to Nobuko, and they're like, yeah, well, if you're, back next summer, you're helping with trash cleanup, and they're like, yeah, and so hopefully they can, have a better relationship. And they end up actually going down to the, down by the marsh, beach where, Hisako is still painting, and Marnie and, Anna introduces Yoriko as her mother, and that makes Yoriko very, very happy. And the thing is I just don't know why Anna doesn't just tell Hisako, Hisako doesn't just tell Hisako right then and there that she's actually Marnie's granddaughter, and she figured it out, but she's like gonna write to Hisako, gonna write to Hisako and tell her what's going on, and hopefully she'll be back next summer, and she'll get to spend more time with, her new friends and everything like that. And, as she's leaving town, she's waving to her friends and everything that are still out on the boat and everything. So she's, enjoying that, and she's she's starting off on a better foot with her mother and everything, and all of that. So it ends on a very happy note, which I always like. And then, in regards to the English cast, so Anna's voice actress for the English dub is Haley Steinfeld, who has been in a lot recently, and recently the main thing that I recognize her from is from the Hawkeye series on Disney Plus, where she plays Hawkeye's apprentice, or kind of forcibly turns herself into his apprentice. Marnie is the younger one is voiced by Kiernan Shipka. Don't know, but she looks almost exactly like Marnie anyway. And then the older version of Marnie for the English dub is voiced by Catherine O'Hara, who is, of course, the mom from Home Alone, and she's Sally in Nightmare Before Christmas, and she's been in so many other movies. Sayaka is voiced by Ava Akers, don't really know. Hisako is voiced by Vanessa Williams, who is an actress and a model. Yoriko is voiced by Gina Davis, who has been she was in A League of Their Own, and she was in The Good Wife for no, that wasn't her. That was not Gina Davis. She's been in a lot of other stuff. The uncle is voiced by the one who's the carpenter, is voiced by John C. Reilly, and then Setsuko is voiced by Greg Griffin. She's done a lot of voice acting. I just can't remember exactly what. There's not too much else. Kathy Bates, I believe, voices voices Nobuko's mother. But there's not really too much else here unless I'm missing something. Nobuko is voiced by Ronnie Rodriguez. I apologize for mispronouncing that. Who is, I think, just one of the various Disney Channel stars from, like, 10 years ago and such, but there's not too much else. I enjoy this movie a lot. I very much, I like the storytelling that they're trying to do with it, how it's kind of a ghost story, but it's, like a good type of a ghost story where it's not the ghost trying to hurt anyone, and it is kind of helping Anna, like, find out about herself and everything. So I like how that's done. In regards to the next two movies, so the next one, I believe, should be Earwig and the Witch, which is the first and only computer animated Studio Ghibli movie that they've done. And right up front, I've actually never watched it. So I'll be watching it for the first time before I review it. So I'll probably end up having to watch it 1 or 2 times before I actually review it, so I know what I'm talking about for the movie. So that's what I have here. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye!